welcome everybody. I am Sarah Snell Cooke, your host here at the Credit Connection. I have a lovely guest today, Pete Longo. Welcome.
Thank you, Sarah. Thanks for having me.
And Pete is the Vice President of Product Management at Finastra. So, Pete, tell us a little bit more about yourself and Finastra.
Sure. Thanks, Sarah. Well, I'm a former banker, so financial services executive for about 15 years prior to becoming a technologist. I was in startup fintech world for a few years with a couple high growth startups, and then came over to Finastra a little over 4 years ago to lead our core and digital banking products. I also added our analytics products under my remit over the last couple of years. So super excited to help credit unions grow here in the US with our open banking platform.
Yeah, awesome. So, as right now, of course, deposits are tight and they have been for a few years, a little bit up, a little bit down, but mostly tight. So, as that continues to intensify, most discussions have been centered around the high yield, the credit unions losing accounts to high yield accounts, to the big banks. However, you know, I think, and I'm sure you think, given your position, that it's really going on more at the fintech level and the neobanks. If you could discuss a little bit more how the nature of deposits are changing and that battle for them.
Sure, I completely agree. I believe 5 to 10 years ago, it really started with the digital only banks, right? The Chimes, the Simple Banks of the world, the Veros, et cetera. And now it's kind of morphed. There's more of those, right? Affinity banks or niche banking, but it's also morphed into these lifestyle apps, right? The Venmos, the Cash apps, even the Bank of Starbucks, as I like to call it, right? Was an early adopter into it. So there's all this competition for low cost deposits and high yield savings, all that jazz online and digital world, right? So it's really about providing the gap fill for digital first experiences that the current consumer member of the credit unions really seeks. So I think it's evolved into what it is today, which is a big challenge to our credit unions in the U.S.
Yeah, and as those consumer preferences are splintering, and it's not just the young people, although I know my kids, my brother even, who's 2 years younger than me, Venmo me the money, whatever.
Mhm.
But so it's not just the younger ones. What can Cranians do to keep up or even get ahead?
Yeah, so I think, and I tell my team this all the time, I believe it's really centered around hyper personalization, right? So having a technology partner or technology partners that allow you to really craft your messaging and the journey to be as frictionless as possible, right? Just like these competitors, air quote, in the lifestyle apps and fintech solutions do. So, gone are the days where we just provide a snazzy UI UX experience for a credit union member. And today it's about where do we meet them and how do we meet them in the experience so that we create journeys that are similar to them and what they're using even outside of financial services in not just a PayPal, but an Amazon shopping experience, Instagram, Shopify, Wix, all these experiences that they may be using in their personal lives or business lives. We have to emulate that experience for our credit union partners on the technology side. So that's where I think things need to go and are starting to go. And then also meeting that member with the type of features and functionality that they really need. So sometimes credit unions and community financial institutions, they get really focused on providing this whole breadth of services. And in reality, what you just described, Sarah, with your own family is sometimes people just want to send money or store money or spend money, right? There's only really 3 or 4 main things that people want to do conveniently, on and on and on and on. So really being able to put those at the forefront and do it in a simple and easy to execute way.
Yeah, no, that totally makes sense. And what I'm hearing from you then is it's not so much about the APYs, although that's still important. But it's about the experience and that widening gap between the more traditional user face interfaces and the expectations of these youngins. And talk about
100%.
that evolution too. More about the experience, these whole generations that care more about the experience.
Yeah. So obviously, another situation that many of our credit unions are dealing with is the generational transfer of wealth, right? Those previous generations were more concerned with insurance and protection of their assets and having someone to talk to in a member center or branch. This generation that's inheriting this wealth or growing the new generation of wealth is concerned with ease of functionality, security in online standards, or at least the semblance of security, right? To make them feel comfortable and being able to do this while they're watching Netflix or Hulu on their couch, right? When you go through Starbucks or the Dunkin' Donuts line, you can deposit money into that virtual account in 5 seconds and it feels secure and easy and they do it and that wealth, whether it's $5 or $5,000, tends to stay there until they execute the spend or the move, right, to their brother or sister or the point of sale that's taking their money to get their goods and services. So I really think that's what this generation of wealth builders is concerned with, right? Ease of access, security, it's there when they need it and it's very reliable, right? They don't want the spinning circle of death or app crashes, et cetera, right? Whereas the previous generation, they didn't really necessarily do those type of transactions every day. And they were more concerned that they could call Sarah or Pete and talk to them or walk in and see them and see it on a screen or a piece of paper. Not the case today.
Yeah, talk a little bit more about this aging out of the traditional financial institutions, which of course includes credit unions, because credit unions are so mission focused that they should be a no-brainer for millennials and Gen Z, but it doesn't seem to be the case. Talk a little bit more about that.
Yeah, so the generations needs, wants, and desires have changed as far as financial services, right? But like I mentioned before, and to reiterate, it's really about the experience and the convenience and less about the whole suite of financial services. They still want that. When
Yeah.
they want to buy a house, they want to know that their credit union can do that. Or when they go to buy a car or an RV, they want to know that their credit union can do that. But when it's not applicable on a Tuesday, they just want to be able to log in, check a balance, or execute whatever they need in a way that feels familiar to them. And that is not necessarily the traditional member experience. It's the Amazon experience, right?
Right, right.
To where they can just go in, log in with their Face ID or biometrics easily and do what they need to. And maybe it's 30 seconds, maybe it's 2 minutes, but without a lot of hiccups and to feel comfortable doing it on a mobile device predominantly, especially in the consumer credit union space. Or maybe it's an online situation on a laptop for a small business while they're traveling on an airplane or in their
Mhm.
car, wherever they might be. So it's really about that experience, emulating what they're really spending the bulk of their lives using technology
And because they're
Monday through
using that,
Friday.
yeah, no, because they're using that every day, multiple times a day. That's the brand in front of their face all the time. And credit unions need to fight to be that brand in front of their face all the time. It's no longer necessarily the credit card or what have you. So
That's correct.
where do credit unions fit in? How can they build the same or better experience?
Well, I think the big advantage potentially that credit unions have is to your point earlier, they are incredibly mission and member focused, right? So just pivoting that focus to say we're still going to focus on it, but we're going to use technology a little bit differently outside the box of traditional financial services, and maybe doing things like embedding social media workflows where and journeys where applicable into the financial services experience, or community-based functionality right, into that digital banking application where we are capturing more of the experience and time when needed for the new generation of depositors. I think that is potentially a big advantage because credit unions tend to know their core demographic of their members very well, and they
Mhm.
are hyper focused. So it lends naturally
Yes.
to using technology to do hyper personalization, right? And giving the member what they want, when they want it, and how they want it for the purpose of financial services.
Okay. Okay. I think you also touched on my next question, which is where can they win? I don't know if you have anything to add about that.
Well, I like, I'm going to use a buzzword, but I like the convenience factor of a frictionless journey, right? So when I was a bank professional, I always used to say this um, to our other executives, our compliance team across the board, right? Product folks, is if someone is sitting on their couch and they're upset with Bank of America and they know credit union XYZ made a good impression on them, can they be onboarded to be a new member and deposit in a frictionless way while they are watching that ad on Hulu or while they're watching YouTube? If they have to get off the couch
Hmm.
to get a checking account number or get a debit card number or something to that effect, they're not making the switch, right? So it's got to be frictionless. It's got to be as easy as onboarding to Venmo, PayPal, Cash App, etc. Um,
Basically, got to do
if
it
you
with their
can do that,
phone.
yeah, you can do it with their face and their thumb,
Yeah.
and it makes them feel secure and easy while they're on their couch, watching Netflix. That's the change effect, right? That's where we need to go.
Yeah. Yeah. So, lots of great information here. Appreciate your time and your insights that you've shared. Any final thoughts you want to leave our credit union audience with today?
I would just say, look, at sometimes it seems insurmountable, and it seems some of these challenges are, a big dark cloud over the traditional credit union growth model and experience to impact your members. But it's not. There's partners out there with open platforms, with great next generation banking experiences that can help you evolve and survive and thrive with the advent of these new competitors outside the traditional space. So we're here for you. And I do think there's a path forward.